Joe, good you.
Well, I rise to speak on the Student Loan Scheme Exemptions and Miscellaneous Provisions Amendment Bill, and I note that this opportunity has been used for political statements, so I intend to make a couple of my own. However, the first thing I want to say is, having been on the Select Committee for this bill, I'm left with no illusions. The student loan scheme is extremely important to New Zealand. It's important that it is working appropriately, managed in an efficient and consistent manner. And that's what this bill is all about. It's not about revisiting whether we should have student loans or not. It's not about trying to scare the horses, as we have been listening to the opposition benches doing. This is about making sure that the student loan scheme works in an efficient and consistent manner. But at the same time, I want to take this opportunity to say, that we need to send the right messages to our students. We need them to understand that the student loan scheme is important to them, but also to New Zealand, that its value of $10.3 billion, it represents a significant asset to the Crown, and that they be under no illusion that we see them also, the students of New Zealand, as a very, very valuable asset. So they have the opportunity to take student loans, and I have, I'm right in the midst of this at the moment with three daughters at university, the last of them heading off to university just a couple of days ago. You deliver your child to university, and you hope like hang they use that opportunity, that they understand the responsibility that they have to make wise decisions for their future. And of course, the students that are going to university will be making decisions about whether they take out a student loan, whether they have a holiday job, and about their future, what courses they take, and if some of them will make the wrong decisions. Some of them will revisit those decisions. But they will have in place a student loan scheme that National is committed to having in place, a student loan scheme that is balanced while at the same time putting in place incentives for those young people to pay off their loan quicker. So 1 in 4 New Zealand graduates head off overseas, and that is really regrettable, because we want those young people to stay here in this country. It's not just the correct settings on the student loan scheme that are actually going to enable that. We have to put a whole lot of settings in place, and I note that yesterday there was a voluntary bonding announcement by the government, extending the voluntary bonding into my own DHB of South Canterbury, and I understand that that is yet another way that we can keep students, medical graduates in New Zealand, by putting in place the right incentives. So that is exactly what this national government is doing. Looking at all incentives to keep those valuable young people. Who wants to actually think of your children being in another country, having probably a good job somewhere else perhaps, but having to go and visit them and your grandchildren? And I guess, this is certainly something now that is coming home to roost to me. I really want to hope that our daughters will find good jobs in New Zealand. More than 500,000 New Zealanders have a student loan. Many have made long-term financial decisions on the basis of the current interest-free student loan policy, and we want to assure them that they can plan with certainty. National, however, was concerned that under Labor there was no incentive for people to repay their loans earlier, and that just seemed pretty crazy to us. That meant loan holders were likely to have their debt for longer, of course, which has implications for other areas of their lives, as well as implications for the Crown, but also implications for them when they're buying a house or starting a family. So we have fulfilled our commitment to keep interest-free student loans for tertiary students, and back in September 2009 we passed legislation that provided for a 10% bonus for both New Zealand and overseas-based borrowers who make voluntary repayments on their student loans of $500 or more in a tax year, giving those people the opportunity to actually reap the rewards of saving and paying off their student loans earlier. This bill introduces mainly technical changes, and I'll probably go into more detail in the committee stage or third reading about those technical changes, but it extends the grace period, removes the hardship criteria and allows people who return to New Zealand 6 months of interest-free loan to fulfil our commitment for a balanced scheme that takes into account this more difficult economic times. I make no apology for making my share of political statements in my speech this morning. However, we really need to get back to the reason for this bill. It is, in fact, about managing the student loan Crown asset, as it is, in an efficient and consistent manner, and I commend it to the House.